if a dealership has a whole lineup of unsold Raptors and desirably trimmed vehicles like this, that generally means they're not doing something good. A $5,000 Northern Colorado market adjustment. So if you live in Northern Colorado, you're going to get screwed, it appears. $105,000. MSRP being $95,000. Well, you guessed it, another $10,000 markup on it, bringing it up to $104,560. Absolutely pathetic. Having a returning customer and having that customer tell their friends and family is much more valuable than trying to line your pockets with an additional $10,000 here and there. You're paying $1,500 to $2,000 per month, mortgage-sized monthly payments for an auto loan. Tube Untamed here. It appears that some dealerships are still living in the past. When you look at many of these price tags of these Ford F-150 Raptors behind me, well, the dealership here is still trying to get a markup, an additional dealer markup or an ADM over MSRP. And we're talking $10,000 over MSRP. It's pretty sickening to see that dealerships are still trying to deploy tactics like this. Greedy, sleazy tactics, let's call it what it is. Right now, supply far exceeds demand, and dealerships know that, they know that. And well, it's very, very abundantly clear when you look at just how many Raptors are just sitting here. Anybody who can fire up the interweb can see that these Raptors are selling at invoice all the way across the country. So why do they think that they can get over MSRP for it? Makes zero sense. You know, I thought dealership greed kind of fizzled out with the pandemic, at the end of the pandemic there, because they realized that it's not good for business. They realized when they charge markups over MSRP, what are they doing? They're rubbing people the wrong way. They're treating their loyal customers like another number. They're treating them like a brick in the wall, and well, they feel awful after paying over MSRP, then quickly realizing that they could have easily paid maybe $10,000, $15,000 less than what they paid this dealership. And they realize that pretty quick, and they will never come back to this dealership. Not just this dealership, there's a handful of dealerships still trying to deploy these tactics. 2025 is already on track to be the worst year for new vehicle sales. Right? And it's largely thanks to the astronomical price tags on so many of these vehicles. Let me show you what we're looking at when it comes to the markups here. On the 801A, the non-37 performance package like this one here, with the 35-inch tires, they're wanting a $5,000 Northern Colorado market adjustment. So if you live in Northern Colorado, you're going to get screwed, it appears. Let me do you a favor. Pick up the phone, call a couple states over, a state over, and easily find one for under MSRP. Invoice pricing is pretty common now. $83,320 is the MSRP. You guys know, I bought my Ford Raptor 37 performance package in Colorado, in Denver, and I spent invoice on it. Mine's a 37 performance package. Like this one here, let me remind you what the MSRP is, and let me remind you what that markup looks like. A little tighter on this side. Look at that. So apparently they think the 37 is more desirable, as it appears. $105,000. MSRP being $95,000. Let me show you over here. Hopefully you can see it okay. $95,185 for this 37 performance package. Pretty sickening that they think that they can deploy that. The list goes on. Here we have another 37 performance package. Well, you guessed it, another $10,000 markup on it, bringing it up to $104,560. Absolutely pathetic. People have long memories, and when a dealership takes advantage of them and takes advantage of their excitement for a new vehicle, especially one like this, an exciting, thrilling vehicle like the F-150 Raptor, they're not going to forget. They will not forget this. And come time for them to buy a new vehicle in the next 3 to 5 years to trade in that Raptor, I assure you, they're not going to be coming back to the same dealership that pulled the wool over their eyes and took advantage of them. Well, I do have a doctorate in organizational psychology. It doesn't take a PhD to know that that is not a wise business model. I have an MBA too. That is not a wise business model. You want returning customers. You want them to feel great about your deal, right? The deal that they got, they want to feel great about it, and then they'll come back. Having a returning customer and having that customer tell their friends and family is much more valuable than trying to line your pockets with an additional $10,000 here and there. Much more valuable, especially for it's a long-term business model, long-term business plan that you want for any successful company or dealership, not this nearsighted stuff. No thanks. Let's face it, a lot of dealerships were also deploying those kind of greedy tactics on vehicles like this. This is a 2025 Ford Mustang Darkhorse. The Darkhorse is a pretty neat Mustang, but when you look at the price tags on these, you quickly realize why they are even collecting dust across the country too. $72,000, $235 for this Darkhorse here. This here, maybe on a good day, is $50,000, $55,000. I'll give it that. But anything more than that, it just feels like a ripoff. People cannot justify buying these right now. This is a very good secondary or third vehicle to have within the household, but money is tight for most Americans. Most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, so they cannot justify coming out and spending that kind of coin on these Mustangs. That we'll often see from dealerships like this is they will waive the markup. They'll waive the markup, or they'll cut the markup in half, and they'll act as though they're doing you a big favor. We see that from so many dealerships saying, hey, you know what, we want to earn your business, so we'll go ahead and knock off that $10,000 markup. And we'll sell it to you at MSRP, which is a great deal. This is a very desirable vehicle. People love this thing. They fly off the shelf. They'll try to convince you of that and take advantage of your excitement. Because when you're looking at that Raptor, it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome, right? You got the wide fender flares. It's a thrilling vehicle. So if you're like, well, I can take off the markup, I can get it at MSRP, that's a great deal. No, it isn't. Invoice is the deal right now that you should be expecting. That's what I paid, $88,000 about for that same exact 37 package. To be fair with you guys, I think you would have to pay me to actually take delivery of a Bronco with this paint package on it. $78,000 for the Strope, I'm saying it wrong, I'm sure. Would you spend anywhere near that kind of coin for a Bronco with that paint? I don't know. This one here is a little bit more my speed, a little bit more of a subdue color. I appreciate that. The color is called Desert Stand. MSRP on this one here, $64,860. Even this just feels astronomically overpriced. You tell me, guys, what would you pay for this Bronco? Dealerships that deploy tactics like that, it's just hard to trust them, unfortunately, right? I mean, they need to learn a lesson, and that lesson needs to come as feedback from us, the consumer. They're obviously not afraid to advertise it. They got it on their windows. They have those $10,000 markups on their website. They're not afraid to market it, right? I mean, that's why I don't care to show it to you guys. They're not afraid to show it, and they unfortunately will likely trick, and I say trick on purpose, trick someone into coming to buy one or two of those, right? And obviously they have. You know, dealerships that deploy tactics like this, they're like sharks with blood in the water. Once they get a taste of blood, man, they refuse to let it go. They refuse to let go of the pandemic times, and that's abundantly clear when you look at the huge level of inventory, unsold inventory at this lot here. This is going to continue to be a problem for them. I don't totally fault the dealership for deploying stuff like that. I don't totally, right? I mean, it's business at the end of the day. How can they maximize their profits? How can they maximize their numbers every single month? And that's what they want to do, right? Especially since they're struggling. All dealerships are struggling to sell new inventory. Where can they make up for those losses? And well, we see them trying to do it with their desirably trimmed and spec'd vehicles like the Raptor there. But what happened to good, honest dealerships that want to earn your returning business and earn your loyalty and just have you come back and have a positive review, positive experience? Whatever happened to those dealerships? If you have a good, honest dealership that you've worked with, please, do everybody a favor, share it in the comment section here and let us all see it. Applaud the good, honest dealerships, because unfortunately, there's no longer enough of them. And unfortunately, whenever we see greedy tactics being deployed by dealers, it's because they live in a very large populated city, a very large populated area where they don't really care so much about getting that returning customers, right? They obviously don't, because, well, if you don't buy it, the next guy will buy it, the next gal will buy it. That's the way they treat so many of their possible deals. That's why they hike up the price tags of them, because they're not worried about getting you to come back, because there's so many people out there. There's so many people in the city, and well, a lot of them have more money than brains, let's face it, and well, they're going to come here, and if they like something, they're going to buy it, and that's the way they treat it. What people need to do is, and whenever they see a dealership deploy tactics like this, and just sleazy tactics, not just markups, so there's other ways that they could be sleazy, whether it's them trying to force your hand into buying these extended warranties, or trying to force you to buy these bogus protection plans that are just hugely inflated in price, leave them a 1-star review. Leave them a 1-star review on Google. Obviously, it doesn't feel like you're doing too much when you do that, but if enough of us do that and constantly keep hitting them with 1-star reviews, eventually, by hitting that drum beat, Ford will take notice. The vehicle manufacturer, Toyota, will take notice. Chevy will take notice of that dealership getting so many 1-star reviews with a common theme of those reviews. They'll take note of that, and that will affect their reputation, and it will affect their ability to get reallocated with these higher trimmed, higher spec desirable vehicles. It will affect that. Never seen so many unsold Super Duties sitting and plaguing on dealership lot. And it's probably largely thanks to what they deployed throughout the last few years. Let's face it, this dealership here, they probably rubbed people the wrong way, and eventually, especially over years, a few years of it, word gets out. The internet is a powerful thing. Word gets out of sleazy tactics, and people will tell their friends, tell their family, and make sure that they don't come here. And that's, as I look around, see all this inventory, stuff is not flying off the shelf, and for obvious reason. Thing we see from so many dealerships right now is they're beginning to hike up the prices of their used vehicle inventory, again, to help make up for their lack of new inventory sales. And well, that's just another example to add on to what we see here at this dealership. They're adding on those markups on the Raptors because, again, they need to try to make up for it somewhere. They're trying to make up for it with their desirably trimmed vehicles that they know people get excited about. And same goes for the used inventory. They hike it up just maybe $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on their used inventory that they know people can actually afford comparatively to these astronomically priced new vehicles, if that makes sense. Getting somebody approved for an auto loan for a used vehicle about $55,000 to $60,000 comparatively to one of these $90,000 plus new trucks here, that's easier to do. Even if it means coming with a worse interest rate, at least they can get people approved for them. This here, it's hard to do. It's hard to do when you're paying $1,500 to $2,000 per month mortgage-sized monthly payments for an auto loan, which is pretty sickening to say out loud, huh? Honestly, guys, I'm actually pretty shocked to see so many unsold Ford Mavericks here. Ford Mavericks, at least in my local dealership, these fly off the shelf. They fly off the shelf because of their price point, not because they're a wildly exciting vehicle, but they just make sense financially. If you're gonna be making these monthly payments, these generally range between $30,000 and $40,000. These Lobo editions in particular with the funky fresh wheels, these generally tick over to 42, 43 grand. Let's see what we're looking at for this one. Yeah, 43,100 for this Ford Maverick Lobo. It's a nice looking rig. I like it. I appreciate what it is. But even these, their price tags are getting out of reach. The price tags on these were originally intended to be $20,000. That's what Ford said. This is a $20,000 pickup that any American can come out and buy, and there's some level of utility to it. But not anymore. When it starts ticking over 40 grand, no thank you. Let's face it, Americans are fed up. They're fed up with these astronomical price tags. And well, most people are voting with their pocketbook now. This dealership here is living proof of that. A ton of unsold new inventory just sitting. Americans are not just swapping out their vehicle every 3 to 5 years, which has become quite commonplace throughout the last few decades, right? But not anymore. People are realizing it is much wiser financially to keep a hold of their current vehicle much longer, make the necessary service appointments, maintenance, performing the necessary maintenance and keeping it within the stable rather than swapping it out. Because this right here, these price tags, they don't make sense. You add on the fact that these monthly payments combined with the astronomical cost of insurance now, over doubling across the country in the last 2.5 years, it's just death by 1,000 cuts. Americans cannot keep up with paying this stuff. The cost of repairs, the cost of insurance, the cost of monthly payment, people are saying no thank you. And those things combined are leading to these huge uptick of level of repossessions that we've seen. We're expecting about 1.85 million vehicles to be repossessed this year, with the vast majority of them, believe it or not, being voluntarily repossessed. That's them picking up the phone, calling the bank and saying, hey, I can't keep up with these payments, come get it from me. In 2023 and 2024, we saw an unprecedented growth in the number of repos take place. We're talking 23% uptick. We saw 1.75 million vehicles repossessed last year in 2024, comparatively to just under 1.5 million in 2023. That growth rate was astounding. And well, this year, we're on track to actually surpass it. Like I mentioned, 1.85 million this year, with a huge uptick in the number voluntarily being repossessed. People are just not wildly excited to come out and get a new Ford F-250 Platinum here. This doesn't even have the high output 6.7 liter Power Stroke, has a standard one, but still just under $95,000. I hate how that has become the norm for a full-size heavy-duty pickup. Guys, I did not realize just how expensive these Lincoln Aviators have gotten. The vast majority of these, I just looked at all their window stickers, are between $62,000 and $67,000. Absolutely insane. They're a sleek ride, but maybe for about 45 grand tops. Ready to see the wave of unsold F-150 Lightnings. They're just now picking back up again. Ford actually halted production of these through the majority of this last year because all of the 2023 units were just sitting collecting dust in so many dealerships across the country. And I mean dozens upon dozens at every single Ford dealership. And even with the government subsidies, $7,500 off, combined with these huge dealership and vehicle manufacturer discounts, they still couldn't sell this. $80,000 freaking dollars for this Ford F-150 Lightning here. These were coming with $20,000 to $29,000 off discounts with everything combined, and even then, Americans were saying no thank you. Ford Broncos, these big body Broncos, were just a prime example of dealership greed. When these were first coming out a few years ago, gosh, every single dealership that received these, it was during the pandemic, they were quick to hit you with a $10,000 at least MSRP or markup over MSRP, which is absolutely pathetic. And well, some dealerships, even today, are trying to deploy it on the desirable trimmed ones. Remember the days where you can go buy a Ford Ranger and just spend about $30,000 for it? Not anymore. The vast majority of these Ford Rangers here in front of me are priced between $45,000 and $50,000. Absolutely sickening that we've gotten to this place. I want to make it very clear, sometimes dealerships will act like it's a flex to have a bunch of really cool high-spec vehicles like the Ford F-150 Raptor here, as if it's a good thing. If a dealership has a whole lineup of unsold Raptors and desirably trimmed vehicles like this, that generally means they're not doing something good, right? That generally means they're doing something pretty sleazy or greedy, like charging markups on it. That's why you see what you see before me. A bunch of unsold Raptors. This would never happen at a dealership that's selling them for what their real market value is. Believe it or not, we actually have some dealerships out there trying to deploy those tactics on the new Ford Expedition here, as if it's not already wildly overpriced, $72,000 for this Active. This is kind of a lower trim example, if you can believe it. If you were to get a Platinum, we'll see what else they have over here. You know, these easily teeter up over $85,000 in a heartbeat. Another Active, so it appears that these are the same spec over here, so they're gonna be about the same price. But look at that, absolutely insane. A lot of people really like this vehicle. It's sweet, but certainly not worth that price tag. You tell me. Curiosity, let me know if you're still seeing any kind of markup in your local area. Let me know, what state you live in, what city, if you don't mind, and share what markups you're seeing, just so we all kind of get a good pulse of the market out there. This right here is pretty pathetic, and I'm hopeful that the dealerships that are deploying this, they have a rude awakening very soon. So let me know what you're seeing out there. But conversely, like I mentioned earlier, let me know if you know of any great dealers, great dealerships out there, good, honest ones. They need to be highlighted. They need to be praised. Those are the ones that we need to be going through. I'll wrap up this video there. I just wanted to kind of highlight the fact that some dealerships are unfortunately still trying to deploy the greedy tactics of doing markups. I'm kind of astonished to see it down here in northern Colorado because, like I said, I just bought my Raptor 37 Performance Package here in Colorado in the heart of Denver for invoice for $88,500 roughly for it. And here, that same truck, $105 grand. Makes zero sense. Thanks again for taking the time to tune into these videos. If you appreciate this type of content whatsoever, I do respectfully request that you please consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a ton, and I promise you, it doesn't go unnoticed. Till next time.